just became such a priority, you know, and that's like what led me to eventually my friends moving into that house, and then them seeing me taking it serious, them being like, let's start throwing shows, and you know, so that's kind of how that all led up, right? So at this point, again, like I'm now in college, like the year after graduating and stuff, kind of building that fan base a little bit. People are like starting to want me to do stuff and asking me to send them like music so they can put it on their phone and stuff, you know, like this was still 2014, so this was kind of before like streaming and stuff really. I mean, I think like SoundCloud was out, but and YouTube, but it was like this was before like the Spotify was really popping like that and stuff. So when the college grant at the end of the year, I had this grant, like I said, to go to college, right? My grades were not at a point where they needed to be, so they pretty much were like, hey, you can like still come back for another semester or another, you know, if you want to, but you have to pay out of your pocket and you're still on like academic probation. So I was like, all right. I mean, I had gotten a job and I had a little bit of money saved up, but like at this point, because of the music and stuff, and after my dad had passed away, like I had kind of already a little bit had an idea of being like, I want to like kind of move. I didn't know where. Like at first I kind of was thinking Chicago, just like I just thought like a bigger city, right, to try to make music happen, just like randomly. And so I was like, I can't afford it. It wasn't that much money. I think it was like maybe $2,000 or something. But I was like, I'm not gonna pay $2,000 to possibly fail out again. Like I didn't even do well when it was free, you know. So my mom pretty much was like, you know, again, my dad had just passed away a year ago at this point. So my mom was like, I mean, okay, well, because I mean, she couldn't afford it, you know. Like there were all these things where like she was like, okay, well, you can't come to me, like, you know. So then I also was like living with her at the time, you know, because this was right after high school, or a year removed to high school. So she pretty much told me, she was like, if you don't go to school, like I'll give you like, I think she said, I'll give you like a semester's worth of time or something like that. It was either a semester or a full year's time, one of the two. And she was like, for you to just grind on your music, because I was like, again, I was taking it really serious at this point, or trying to at least. She was like, you can either grind or you have to like get a job and then go back to school if you want to like live here and not have to go live somewhere else and pay rent and stuff. So I obviously chose, all right, let me just grind on my music and like really make something happen. And then fast forward a little bit, about a year later, I changed my name, like my like performance name, and made it a little bit more simple. And I got the opportunity to move to Austin just because I had met so many people. Like I had started releasing music on SoundCloud and really starting to push it. And I don't even really, I think about this a lot. I don't even remember how it happened, but like I just eventually got involved in this community of people on Facebook that were releasing music on SoundCloud. It was like this underground community. And like, bro, this was so deep in SoundCloud. Like some of the people in that community were people like the Suicide Boys. Have you ever heard of them?
Yeah.
Bro, like this was at a point, this was like I said, this was like 2015. Yeah, at this point, 2015 and like 16, right? The Suicide Boys didn't even have, like, it was their personal accounts, and I'm only name dropping them just to show you like how far back it was and how random this community was, bro. Because all of a sudden, and like Lil Peep too, you know Lil Peep?
Yeah, definitely.
So he's another person that was in the same shit, bro. And it's like, I don't even know how I ended up in it. It's like I randomly had some guy, I do remember I had some one of my friends named Trippy the Kid, and that's like another name, like he's heavily associated with all them too, but he randomly had like added me on Facebook after hearing one of my songs on SoundCloud. So it was like this whole thing that I just was all of a sudden involved in this, right? So bro, this was like, and again, the reason I brought up the Suicide Boys, because this was like, it was their personal accounts, bro, like being like, hey, we just made this. Like it was like, I literally saw the transition of them being like solo people that were kind of just on some darker shit turn into the Suicide Boys you know, and them like explaining it all, you know, because it's like they were kind of rapping and making music already and stuff too. It was crazy, bro. But all that to say that I met some people and ended up, like I said, getting the opportunity to move to Austin. So I did that, and again, since I was releasing on SoundCloud, not only was I involved in this community, but they were reposting my songs, I was reposting their songs, so it's like we were all gaining listeners just randomly like that. So I now had this online presence that was like randomly just supporting me, you know. So I was putting out a lot of music, bro. Like this was at a point, it was probably like a song a week, you know, and this was again back in 2016 probably at this point. So I ended up moving to Austin. Within like a week, get booked for a show to open up for Ugly God. If you remember Ugly God, he hasn't really dropped stuff lately. Yeah. So this was again, bro, like 2016, maybe 17 at that point. But that was like the first thing, and again, this was in a week of going there. Bro, there was probably like 300 to 400 people at that show. Like I had never done something like that. I had done stuff here where it's like 50 people, and you know, I'd done stuff here maybe even 100 people, like at the big ones, but there wasn't really the community to do that here, you know. So I was just like blown away, bro. And then fast forward from that, bro, it was almost like I was doing a show every single week, and it was stuff like that. It was like done shows with Lil Peep, Smoke Perp, Made in Tokyo, Suicide Boys, Rob Banks, if you know who that is,
Definitely.
Fat Nick and Puya. Like it was like, bro, it's like, because it's Austin. At this point, it's Austin, right? Like Fort Wayne, there was no one coming through the city like that. So that is, I feel like, going back to what we were talking about earlier about Fort Wayne becoming a music city, that'd be awesome, you know. But like I want to see it happen. You know, like, because like I said, bro, that's the whole reason I moved away. Like I got the opportunity to move to Austin because it wasn't happening here how I needed it to. Like there was stuff I had done in Indy too that was granted better than it was here, but it still didn't really do much for me. It's like I had done a couple shows there to where I was able to like sell some merch, and I was able to gain some. At this point, it was like when Facebook was like the main thing. Like I was able to gain some people on Facebook that would then continue to hit me up, and I got like rebooked for a couple shows like here and in little towns in between, like here in Indy. Like I remember I did like I got booked for like a show, a grand opening at a skate park in Anderson, and like such a long time ago. But just stuff like that, you know, like it was like random stuff, but it was never anything that I felt like was taking me to the next level. So then it's like you move to a bigger city. It happened for me, right? And then I'm like, okay, this isn't even making sense, because I wasn't getting paid at first, you know. It was more just like promoters would catch on that I was putting on a good opening show, and then people would like lob me opportunities, or things would just happen, right, to where it's like I was able to keep just doing these opening acts. So that built me like a little following in the city, you know. And I kind of just transferred that into like, again, like supporters just online, and then it was the city, and it's like I eventually threw a couple shows in Austin, was able to have people actually show up at them, and you know, so it was like I was doing out there exactly what I wanted to do. And then kind of just got to the point where I was doing more stuff, and then I threw a show in LA with a bunch of more people that I, again, as you know, as this is all bubbling and happening, as I'm working, I was meeting tons of people. So at this point, I had met, you know, at the beginning I had met people in Austin, but now I had met people in LA, and now I had met people in LA that would come to Austin a lot, like very often. And so then it was like I would go to LA, and then I threw a show in LA, and I had the LA people on that show. So then it's like the LA fans and the LA their people were there at that show. So then it's like I end up being like, all right, well now I want to move to LA. So that was like the final like step, you know, because it's like I knew I wanted to move to a bigger city. Like I was saying, Chicago was kind of like the mindset. Then I learned about Austin, met some people, and I was like, all right, it's gonna be Austin. But I was like, at the end of the day, I want to be somewhere, whether it's New York or LA. Like LA, that'd be cool. So especially since I'd been there too, right? Like I had thrown a show there, I had done a couple more shows there, so it's like I knew the vibe was what I wanted to do. Was able to do it. Had some friends that wanted to get a house. We ended up all getting a house together, living out there. And then I did a couple different things. I had like a few different living situations in the like, cause I think I lived there for 5 years. I think I came back for like 6 months at one point, but yeah, it was a total like 5 years, you know. And yeah, that was like a little different because, you know, in Austin, that city supports music so much that I think what helped me a lot was the fact that it was I was like a new face, you know, because like Austin's the type of city where people are going to show up at every show almost, you know, like, so it was just like I was a new face, so they really supported me there, the people, and then like even the people who were the curators, you know, that were actually like throwing the shows and stuff. So I was kind of like a small fish, or a big fish in a small pond, I guess, because everyone else that had been performing and getting booked for stuff, everyone had seen at shows, you know, 5 or 10 times. So that was like almost like an out of town like advantage in a way that I feel like I had. But then when I get to LA, it was way different than that, because you're in Los Angeles, bro. You're in like the mecca of everything. So you then become like a tiny fish in like a fucking ocean, you know? So it was like, at that point I had made music my main income, you know, and I had done and followed the path for what I wanted to do. But I was in LA, so it had switched different, because I wasn't a celebrity, I wasn't big, I wasn't famous, but I had enough of a following to where I was able to, again, to make an income. But again, I was not like popping in any type of way.